Hey there, Squirrel Army. How's it going? For today, we are gonna do a EDH deck tech on Firesong and Sunspeaker.
You can join the Squirrel Army by subscribing.
Alrighty, so this is a pretty unique commander. It wasn't released properly for quite a while. And it finally got released in Double Masters, so now people can actually get copies of it. Otherwise, people had to proxy it before, or be very lucky to get it in a promo, and there were only so many running around. But the main reason for this is I've had a bit of analytics saying people want this, so I'm trying it out to see how it goes. So my idea for this deck is to burn our opponents, deal a whole bunch of damage with our instants, and gain a whole bunch of life. We can put in the mana flare thing, and things like that. So there's a lot of cool cards, and yeah, I'm going to see what I can build with this.
Alright, so I've finished up the list here for this deck. Came out 232, so again, not super budget, but not too high. We had some higher ones as well, so not the highest. But anyway, before I get going too far in explaining the deck list and some of the cards that are in it, I'm not going to go through everything, but I am going to go through quite a bit here. And I know most people aren't that super duper interested. They just sort of want to see what we're up to and see the deck list. If you do just want to see the deck list, copy, paste, proxy, do whatever you want to do with it. Check it out. It's in the comments there below. Should be pinned up. So you can go and check that out and do what you will with that list. But as I say, for the people that are interested, we will go through some of the stuff, not all of the stuff, because there is a lot here and there's not enough time ever to go through everything. I'm not going to really touch on the lands. I picked some, fairly cheap duels that were in our colors. And tossed in some basics. Obviously, if you have more expensive dual lands and fetches and that sort of thing, go ahead and put them in. They are obviously very good, and whatnot. So, yeah, it is what it is. I'm not going to go through most of the instants and sorceries that are in our deck, even though they are like the things that sort of win us the game in a sense. Most of them are just random burn spells. There's a couple that are like removal, very good removal specific, but beyond that, there's not that much there, honestly. There are a few sections here that do have them, but we'll go through them more individually. I've got 4 cards here in the recursion. We don't have a lot of card draw. Hashtag Boros doesn't have hardly any card draw, nor there's white or red really, especially when you're dealing with instant and sorcery. So we need any kind of recursion, any kind of copying that we can kind of get, because we need our spells to do way more. We need our spells to punch above their weight sort of effect, because otherwise we will not be having a good time. We will be in some very big hot soup. We also have a few spells that have jumpstart, flashback, whatever else I could think of that basically casts them again or from the graveyard, and a few effects that do, as I sort of said, get things back from the graveyard. Because again, we need to have our spells doing more than just one thing, or if it is doing one thing, we really want it to do a lot for its cost. We don't want to pay a whole bunch of mana and not get hardly really any decent effect out of it. we've got a bunch of pingers and whatnot that are in our deck, and we've got a bunch of stuff that deals extra damage into our deck as well. So that's a lot of like what our deck's doing. We need to do damage, and we need to deal that damage extra. We need our spells again to punch above their weight, so we need these artifacts, enchantments, creatures, etc. that help our spells do more than what they would normally do, and that sort of thing, because otherwise, again, we're in a lot of trouble. Not going to go through too much of the ramp, because again, there's not much here that actually really is too synergistic, but Prime Whammer, it's pretty decent. Bergie's obviously really good with what our deck's kind of doing. Jai, I'm not too sure about. The looting effect there is okay as well, but and it is a +1 actually. I didn't realize it was also a +1, but the emblem's pretty nice as well. So that is there. Neheb's obviously awesome. The goggles, they're pretty decent. And we've got just a bunch of other stuff, that sort of does stuff. I did put in Reservoir because this is another way to win with the deck, especially when the commander's sort of taken out. It's not a Storm deck per se, but we can easily get a lot of life, and we can easily use that life for other things, so it doesn't really hurt us to pay life, like with the Ogre over here, who helps us pay life for mana and such. So it doesn't really hurt us, because again, we're going to be gaining life a lot anyway. And along with that life gain thing, I thought Well of Lost Dreams is pretty decent. Dawn of Hope's not too bad, I don't suppose, but you do have to pay mana for it. So can be a little bit annoying in that regard. Our Hammerets, again, we like the life gain is pretty alright for us, but we definitely want it for that card draw. We need any kind of extra card draw that we can kind of get. So again, we just need whatever we can find. And Sunbirds was the only real other thing that I could kind of find that kind of gave us some sort of card advantage. It is a lot of an investment, and it is hard to protect, but again, we need whatever we can get. There's hardly anything that's in our colours that really gives us a good card advantage and card draw. So yeah, we've got a bunch of copy stuff, as I sort of said, and actually Arcane Bombardment also recurs stuff, so there is that. We've got a few things to protect ourselves and do extra things and whatnot here and there as well. But that is most of the deck, like recurring stuff, trying to, draw cards when we can. It would be nice, in a way, I guess, to actually have tutors and things like that. I'm not a huge person who runs tutors and things like that. Calibrated Blast can find spells, but then again, he just puts it on the top, so... or whatever, I guess, so... There are a few things that help us find cards here and there that are instant and sorceries, like Browbeat and Volcanic Spike, and of course Risk Factor. But I like Risk Factor the most out of Browbeat and that, because it is recurable from the graveyard. I believe Spike doesn't do hardly anything. It just draws cards, so that's alright, but at least it does draw us cards, absolutely, rather than like Browbeat, which might not draw us cards. At least Risk Factor, at least if it doesn't draw us cards, it's like, well... It's in the graveyard now, so, we can flash it back, which is effectively kind of drawing a card, and that sort of thing. So there are a few, loops of things like that where it doesn't really draw us a card, or it can't you can't force people to make you draw cards, etc., sort of thing. So you just have to hope that, the damage eventually is enough from when you're casting it from your graveyard that people are like, no, I'm not taking whatever damage that is. But then again, it's like, well, you're going to draw more burn spells, so it's just like, well, we're probably dying either way. So even so, it is all about winning, So in that sense, like, you don't sometimes need people to let you draw cards, though it would be very helpful, obviously, for you to draw cards. But again, like, if we've just got the win, we don't really care about drawing cards at a certain point. But certainly, you do need that card draw, that or tutoring sometimes, to get it. I was thinking about putting in the equipment that you can unequip and tutors for a thing and cast it, but I'm not too sure because not we do have a few things that are 3 or less, but yeah, I'm not too sure because again, there's a lot that isn't 2 or less, but you could obviously run Sunforger, and that sort of thing. So yeah, I did think about it, but I'm not too sure about it. So you guys can always decide if you guys want to put that sort of thing into the list or whatever else you want to put in the list. But keep in mind you do have to cut something to sort of put it in. But anyway, that is the list for today, and I hope you guys have enjoyed it, and I hope you guys will join me again in the next one.